Good morning, Megha. Good morning, Dr. Nadia. We have Professor Dwari joined us, a Pro Vice Chancellor, RB University.
Hi.
Am I audible?
Good morning. Yes, you're audible.
We will start soon, Dr. Ben.
Hello, Bu Nadia.
Hello, Bu Mega. We will start soon after this. Yep.
Hi, Megha. Hi, Nadia. Hi, Dr. Bhat.
Hello, Dr.
Halo,
Hemta.
Selamat.
Hi, Dorisa. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our first lecture series in 2025, collaborating between Fakulty of Law Universitas PGRI Semarang, Indonesia, and RV University, India. The Excellency Dr. Nur Hidayat as the Director of International Office Affairs of Universitas PGRI Semarang. The Excellency Ms. Mega Novita PhD as the Head of International Division of Universitas PGRI Semarang. The Excellency Professor Dr. Dwarika Prasad Unia as the Provost Chancellor of RV University, India. The Excellency Dr. Banu Prakas Nuna as the Director of Center for Victimological Research and Victim Assistance of RV University, India. Honorable Dr. Wahyu Widodo as the Dean of Law Faculty Universitas PGRI Semarang. Respectable all the audiences and participants of this event. Firstly, let's pray thanks into our God who has been giving us mercies and blessing so we can attend together in this event. Ladies and gentlemen, all the guests and audiences, I would like to say welcome to first lecture series 2025 collaborating between Faculty of Law Universitas PGRI Semarang and RV University, India. With the theme Technology Facilitated Gender-Based Violences, Preventive and Victim Support Measures in India and Indonesia. Thank you very much for attending our invitation. I am Indah Putriadi, As the Master of Ceremony, I would like to read this agenda. The first agenda is opening. The second agenda is singing the national anthem, Indonesia Raya, and Indian national anthem. The third agenda is speech. The fourth agenda is discussion by the speaker. The last agenda is closing. Well, before beginning the agenda, let's open our agenda by the agenda run well. Now, we are going to the second agenda, deliver our national anthem, Indonesia Raya, and Indian anthem.
Langsung nih.
Ini langsung. Benar sayang. Yang India lagi India. Maksudnya
Udah mulai belum kamu ya? Udah bisa.
Thank you very much. The third agenda is speech by some speaker. The first speaker is the Provost Chancellor of Hukum University, India, to Professor Dr. Dawarika Prasad Unial. Time is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Am I audible? My apologies because I am traveling. I'm still on my way to office. I'm in the car, so the bandwidth could be saved. Good morning, namaskar, selamat, salam alaikum to everyone. And this is such an interesting and exciting beginning to 2025 between India and Indonesia for this kind of collaboration which is coming in between universities, civil service organizations, and academics and practitioners in this field. And the issue which you all have picked up, the theme of the today's conference is very, very apt. It is also very ironic that after so many years of independence of India as well as Indonesia, all our thriving economies, their democracies, their law and order is very much in place, yet the centuries-old issues of gender-based violence continues to rise its ugly face on our daily basis across all walks of life as well as all sections of the society. It's no longer just a case which is happening to the underprivileged or it's happening to certain castes in India, but it is so prevalent across all echelons of the society that every morning you pick up a newspaper and you feel very ashamed about what is really happening. And hence it is very important that as academics, as society people, as technology people, we all come together to find a solution, as well as how do we engage with larger, underprivileged people who do not have access to quick justice to ensure that perpetrators are brought to justice. Now, in this particular case, technology can be a great leveler. The way technology is moving in, the way we are having all mobile devices there. I think there are all times people will not have access to right kind of support or right kind of infrastructure to reach out to help agencies. I think technology can very well bridge that particular gap. And I hope that today's deliberation among all the academics and people, Dr. Bhanu and Ms. Nadia and others who are talking in this seminar and all the distinguished speakers will definitely deliberate upon how do we bridge this particular gap, how do we bring technology to engage into the larger societal level, how do we start connecting with all the larger stakeholders in this particular to solve this problem, and how do we create awareness, how do we engage with larger societal people so that we can find a more long-term and sustainable solution to this particular menace which is there in our society and across all the societies. It's not just Asia, but if you look around the kind of issues of gender-based violence or the, for example, what is happening to the Mexican borders and trafficking, the human trafficking, the ugly face it shows in the former USSR countries, what is happening in Eastern Europe, what is happening in Africa in that particular case. It's an organized crime which is being perpetrated against young women. And I think as larger society and the world, we need to be ashamed of what is happening, but we just can't sit tight and say we can't and wriggle our hands and say we can't do anything about it. I think as conscious citizens of the world, we all need to work together and take all the help, and maybe we might be able to find a good solution to this. I remembered I was working with UN Women many years ago, almost a decade ago, in Brazil for some work, and they were able to find out a technology-based solution where there was an app which was there called Click 108, where women could actually, and Brazil, the violence against women is huge, and they were able to find a solution through an app where women could press that particular SOS if they see there's a danger happening or there is somebody who's assaulting them in the streets and somebody is mugging them. There's a random violence which is happening, or maybe even the violence which is happening at home. I think domestic violence is huge across all the societies, and it is underreported most of the times. And I think with technology, we should be able to solve this particular and reaching out to the law agencies at the rightful manner and then seek support so that timely action can be taken before it's too late. So with these few words, I would like to wish all of you first, congratulations for organizing this. At the same time, my wishes to all the organizers, listeners. I see there are almost 70 to 74 people who have joined early this morning for this seminar and the conference. My best paper, an action report, and recommendations for both technology companies, for civil societies, for lawmakers, as well as for the governments to start creating smaller subgroups to find long-term solutions to some of these. So with that, thank you, Nadia and Dr. Bhanu, and thank you, Inda, for asking me to speak first. My, again, apologies. I'm middle of the road, and I'm yet to reach my office. Probably another 15 minutes, I should be in a position to do that. But my best wishes to everybody. Thank you, Hemlata, for coordinating this, and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. The second speaker is the head of International PGRI Semarang, to Ms. Ganovita, PhD. 10 is yours.
All right, good morning and warm greetings to everyone. Honorable Professor Dr. Dwarika Prasad Unyal, Vice Chancellor of RV University, India. Honorable Dr. Banu Prakash Nuna, Director of the Center for Victimological Research and Victim Assistance, RV University, India. Our best friend, Honorable Dr. Hemlata Sharma, the International Office of RV University, India. Honorable Dr. Sabto Budayat, Vice Rector 3 of Universitas PGRI Semarang. The Honorable Dr. Wahyu Widodo, Dean of the Faculty of Law, Universitas PGRI Semarang, and Honorable Ms. Nadia Latifa, and SHLLM, Secretary of the Law Faculty Program, Universitas PGRI Semarang. Distinguished guests, faculty members, students, and all participants, on behalf of the International Affairs Office of Universitas PGRI Semarang, I'm truly honored to welcome all of you to the first Law Lecture Series 2025, today, Thursday, 30 January 2025. Today, we gathered to discuss an urgent and important topic, technological facilitated gender-based violence, preventive and victim support measures in India and Indonesia. Technology has become an essential part of our lives, offering opportunities for communication, education, and progress. However, it also presents challenges, particularly in the rise of gender-based violence in digital spaces. This issue requires global awareness, strong preventive strategies, and collaborative action to support victims and ensure a safer online environment. We are deeply grateful to our distinguished guests from RV University, India, Professor Dr. Dwarika Prasad Unyal, Dr. Banu Prakash Nuna, Dr. Hemlata Sharma. We also honor the presence of Dr. Sabto Budayat, Vice Rector 3, who has continuously supported international collaborations, Dr. Wahyu Widodo, the Dean of Faculty of Law, for his leadership in legal studies and research at our university, Ibu Nadia Latifa, SHLLM, who will provide valuable insights, helping generating the collaboration between our two universities, our university, Universitas PGRI Semarang, and also RV University India. Special thank you to RV University India and of course Professor Dr. Dwarika Prasad and Ibu Dr. Hemlata Sharma for their strong support in making this event possible. These joint lecture series have been initialized since last year, and your commitment to academic exchange and research collaboration is truly appreciated. We don't want to stop our collaboration only today, but we also seek for the further collaboration, the next lecture series, or even student exchange, faculty exchange, or another academic international collaboration. To all participants, we hope that this lecture will inspire discussions, promote awareness, and encourage solutions to address technology-facilitated gender-based violence. Let us use this opportunity to learn, engage, and work together towards a safer and more just society. Once again, thank you all for being here. I wish you a productive and insightful session. Let's begin this important discussion. I hope you enjoy this lecture series. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mega. Well, we are going to the core agenda, that is lecture material presentation and discussion by the speaker will guided by our moderator, Mrs. Nurul Fatima SHMH. For Ms. Nurul, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Indah. Good morning, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to today's visiting lecture on technology facilitated gender-based violence, preventive and victim support measure in India and Indonesia. My name is Nurul Fatimah Solehah. You can call me Mrs. Nurul. and I am so honored to be your moderator for this important discussion. In today's digital era, technology has brought both opportunities and challenges. While it has empowered many, it has also been misused to perpetrate gender-based violence in various forms, including cyberstalking, online harassment, and image-based abuse. So, in this session, we will explore preventive measure and support system available in India and Indonesia to combat this growing issue. Today, we have a panel of experts who will share their valuable insight and experiences of this critical issue. It is a great pleasure to introduce our distinguished speaker. Our first speaker is Dr. Banu Prakas Nuna, who is Director, Center for Victimological Research and Victim Assistance, RV University, India, followed by Mrs. Nadia Latifah, SHLLM, who is Secretary of Law Study Program UPGRIS Indonesia. So I would like to extend a warm welcome to our keynote speaker, Professor Dr. Dwarika Prasad Unial, who is Vice Chancellor of RV University, India, and Dr. Wahyu Widodo, SHMH, who is a Dean of Law Faculty UPGRIS Indonesia. Also, we have Dr. Sabto Budoyo, who is Vice Rector 3 of UPGRIS Semarang, Indonesia. And we have Miss Meganovita. Hi, Miss. And we have Dr. Nur Hidayat, also Dr. Hemlata Serma. The audiences, our discussion has 3 sessions. First, presentation of panelists. 2, question and answer session. And 3, closing statement from panelists. So we move on to speaker 1, Dr. Banu. Hi, Doctor.
Hello, Ms. Nuro. Am I audible?
How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. It's not your very first time, right?
No, it's not the first time. Thank you so much for inviting me every time we have some collaborative activity. And I'm grateful for the wonderful opportunities that you all provide and for the collaborations that we have between RV University and UPGRIS.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is certainly...
Yeah, Dr. Banu?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Yeah.
I just want to say
So
something. So,
please.
yeah, I just want to say something. It is right to say Suprabhat in India.
Suprabhat is used generally for good morning. Yeah.
Good morning.
Like Selamat Pagi.
Yeah,
Selamat Pagi is Suprabhat. Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, without further ado, let's begin our discussion, Doctor. So,
Sure. Yeah. Could you please make me a co-host so that I can present my material? Could you please make me co-host and I'll share my material?
Co-host.
Okay.
Coba.
Okay. Can you see my slides?
Yes, yes, we see.
All right. Yep. Selamat Pagi. I'm thankful for the opportunity provided by UPGRIS and for this joint collaboration in organizing this joint lecture series in victimology. And I'm also thankful to Dr. Nadia and the International Office of UPGRIS with Mega heading the department. Thank you so much for this wonderful collaboration and wonderful initiative in terms of organizing this victimology lecture series, bringing perspectives from both from India and Indonesia, 2 of the most emerging economies in the world and strongest emerging strong powers in the global context. So this is certainly a very, very important topic, technology facilitated gender-based violence. Right? With increasing reliance on internet and virtual media, it has become very challenging. So of late, we have seen that a lot of crime trends have shifted. Crime occurrences, instances have shifted from physical space to virtual space, and gender-based violence is no exception to that. We have also seen an increasing trends of various facets of gender-based violence now committed on online space. For example, gender-based violence, like domestic violence, which is a closed door affairs, which is considered as a closed door affairs, has now taken a virtual space, and partners who are not in cordial equations are hitting against each other on the virtual space, and sometimes it has turned into violent measures. So, so it is definitely a growing problem, and certainly there are several factors which has contributed to the rise in this phenomena of technology-based gender-based violence instances. And so in this lectures from both the speakers' perspective, you will also see what are the preventative measures that the governments of our countries have taken in terms of ensuring that people who use online platforms are safe in certain degrees, and they're not their privacy and rights are not violated. They're not treated inhumanly and insensitively on the spaces. There are some legal measures in place already, and there are also supportive mechanisms in both our countries. However, it is also important to be realistic in terms of the existence of these laws and also the consequential impact in terms of implementation of existence of these laws. So these are some of the important factors that we're going to dwell in today's lecture. As we all know, technology facilitated gender-based violence. It involves violence using digital tools such as social media, emailing, and messaging platforms. And for example, cyber harassment, example, trolling. We see several cases of trolling these days and increasing rampant in numbers. And we also see hate speech phenomena happening in cyberspace. And image-based sexual abuse is another form of technology-facilitated gender-based violence. And you also have cyber stalking and sextortion. So these are all various means through which a gender-based violence is committed in technological space. Why is it very relevant to talk about these issues? Is that there is a growing concern with the rising internet usage. So anybody could become a potential target in terms of becoming a victim of cyber attacks, right? Because of our increased reliance. If you look at opportunity-based model of criminological theory, it says that the places that you frequently visit, the places that you spend more time in, provides an opportunity for a perpetrator to wait for a moment where there is a possibility of attacking you, right? This is what an opportunity model speaks about. Right now, because of our increased time spent on online platforms, now these becomes hubs for people who are waiting for an opportunity to take an advantage, to take to attack us in some forms. So our increased reliance on technology and internet usage has provided that ground where there is a possibility of anybody becoming a victim at some point. Here, specifically in this context, we're talking about technology-facilitated gender-based violence, where vulnerable groups like women and children and minority segments are easy targets of these violent activities in the online space. So if you quickly look at the technology-facilitated gender-based violence model, incorporating perpetrator, victim, survivor, and the relation between these two. So you see that perpetrators have strong motives. So revenge, jealousy, there could be political agenda, anger, ideological agenda, sex or desire, monetary need and desire, maintaining social status. These are some of the motivating factors why perpetrators commit crimes in the online space. And the intent could be psychological harm, physical harm, bringing about a physical harm to the individual or inducing psychological harm in the individual. And there could also be reasons because of the instrumental reasons could be about monetary benefits or norm enforcement. For example, you see this in the cases of in the space where there is discriminatory factors. For example, men oppressing women in the online space, or one religion oppressing a minority religion in the online space. You see a lot of norm enforcement. Like, for example, a Muslim woman being outspoken in the online space could be shut down by a male perpetrator saying, how could you gather this courage to speak about your own religion, or how could you dress like this? Right? There could be several ways in which people in minority segments could be looked down in the internet space. And it simply could be about a norm enforcement. They do not want the voices of the minority to take a louder volume. And you see a lot of such intents also being driven in the online space. And there are several behaviors that these perpetrators exhibit, which leads to technology-facilitated gender-based violence. For example, stalking, defamation, bullying, sex-based harassment, exploitation, hate speech, and gender trolling. Right? The relationship between a perpetrator and victim, like in any other cases. Here also, it could be about personal. These two individuals, it's possible that they know each other personally, and there could also be an impersonal relationship shared or an institutional relationship shared between the perpetrator and the victim or the survivor. Right? The impact of technology-facilitated gender-based violence on the victims could range from physical, psychological, social, economic, functional, and aspirational limitations it could set on individuals who are going through this victimization in the online platforms. And help-seeking and coping behaviors could range from reporting it formally and informally, and accessing support services. Existing support services could be accessed by the victims, and social support, reliance on the family, friends, and NGOs and other informal mechanisms of support could also be initiated in this process of seeking help. And changing technological use, we see an increasing trends in terms of people shifting from one platform to another platform because of prior negative experiences of using such platforms, and avoidance behavior. Right? You also have people who are scared of the experiences they've had, and they completely have avoided these online platforms. So you also see various behaviors exhibited by victims, which can range from completely secluding themselves or having a temporary break from such platforms, right? These are some of the behaviors that can catch our attention. And the incidence rates could range from very frequent to and the duration could also last from a short term to long term, and the associated intensity of experiences could also vary based on the duration and the frequency of these kind of incidents that an individual face. And the medium could be varied. You will have social networking sites, dating sites, communication technology platforms, entertainment sites, personal online accounts. Any of these could potentially be a medium through which you are victimized in the online space. And there could be several tactics that these perpetrators could use. Doxing has been an increasing phenomena these days. Doxing is basically trying to publish your private information in the online space with a malicious intent. So we've seen an increasing phenomena of these activity these days, and hacking, threats, and image-based abuse, impersonation, and unwanted messaging or posting. These are all some of the tactics that people use in terms of the online spaces. So in terms of the impact of technology facilitated gender-based violence on individuals who are going through these experiences, there are several psychological impacts. And like victimology has struggled quite a lot in terms of determining and establishing the consequential impact of psychology of victims who are going through victimization. So it has had its share of struggles in terms of telling people that this is very, very important. And it's very important that you also look at psychological damages any victimization can cause in people. Similarly, for technology facilitated gender-based violence also, we are still struggling in the space of trying to understand, trying to be sensitive and empathize with the victims when you encounter with psychological damages. So this is very underrated and undermined even till today. And there are definite consequences in terms of psychological damages for people who are going through technology facilitated gender-based violence. Fear and anxiety. So these reactions could range from fear and anxiety in people who are going through these kind of violent activities on online platforms. Shame and humiliation. There could be chronic psychological consequences as well. For example, post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, clinical depression, and isolation. So these are some of the long-term consequential psychological damages that individuals can have because of these violent experiences they have in the online platforms. And if you look at the impact on children, why the context of children is very important is that you also have a lot of trends and increase of sextortion cases, particularly targeting children globally. And you also have a long-term psychological impacts seen in children who have become victims at a very, very young age. So they often exhibit disruptions in emotional and cognitive development. There could be educational consequences in terms of them not being able to pay concentration in classes, missing classes, thereby impacting their academic performances. And you also see an increasing trends in terms of self-harm and suicide rates, especially in the teenagers, where they feel that there is no other way other than to harm themselves or kill themselves to be able to put an end to this cyberbullying or cyber-related experiences they have. So you see that there is a wide range of psychological impact that these crimes can have on people. So it doesn't necessarily mean that because there is no physical harm, because these things are done in the online space, there is no physical harm attributed. But it doesn't mean that the victims are not traumatized by these experiences. There is a clear-cut psychological damages that these people go through. So it's very, very important to practitioners or to people who are in positions of helping these individuals pay attention to these psychological damages to be able to assist these victims adequately. Our Center for Victimological Research and Victim Assistance has conducted a study in the 2024, and we tried to explore further our understanding in terms of technology facilitated sexual violence among college-going students. So our sample has ranged between 19 years to 26 years, and we've had 113 college students participated in our study, 76 females and 34 males, and about 3 identified as other genders. So the most commonly reported acts of TFSV is receiving unwanted sexually implicit messages, comments, emails, or text messages, which is ranging about to 58% of the participants. About 65% of the total female respondents had experienced either one form of TFSV at the least. So you have at least 50 females who have participated in this study have identified themselves as going through technology facilitated sexual violence. About 100% of the other gender experienced technology facilitated sexual violence. We have a limited number, like 3 people from other gender identified as participated in the study, but all 3 of them have reported that they've gone through an experience of technology facilitated sexual violence in online platforms. It also indicates how vulnerable these minority population are when it comes to using online platforms. And these are the 5 most common forms of victimization that are identified through our research: unwanted sexually explicit images, comments, emails, or text messages; repeated and or unwanted sexual requests online or via email or text messages; gender-based offensive and or degrading messages, comments, or other content; partner checking up on location, activities multiple times a day. It is reported as one of the forms of sexual victimization; gender-based offensive and or degrading messages, comments, or other content in the virtual world. So these are the 5 most common forms of victimizations that our study has revealed. So we also try to explore the interlinkages between people who have identified themselves as victims of technology facilitated sexual violence and thereby the psychological impact. So we've used Beck Depression's inventory to understand the psychological impact, especially in terms of development of symptoms of depression in people who have identified themselves as victims. So the results have indicated that all these people who have identified of becoming a victim of at least one form of technology facilitated sexual violence, all of them have reported showing symptoms of depression. So it can range from minimal depression to severe depression, but all of them have identified having some kind of psychological impact in them and developing symptoms of depression. For example, 46% have identified themselves as having minimal depression. And this is a screening tool for a clinical screening tool for depression. Mild depression about 20%, and moderate depression about 20%, and severe depression about 15%. So almost every individual who have identified as a victim of technology facilitated sexual violence in our study have also reported showing symptoms of depression with varying intensities. So most of the, about 35% of them would require a clinical intervention and further consultations to be able to handle these psychological mechanisms adequately. So the global context, if you look at technology-facilitated gender-based violence, so the statistics reveal that 85% of women globally experience online harassment, those who have access to internet and online platforms. So they are 85% of them, of women, are prone to or vulnerable to experience online harassment. 1 in 3 women face cyber stalking. These numbers are in alignment with the general gender-based violence figures, and these are reported by Amnesty in its report in 2022. Some of the examples, if you look at developed countries and developing nations, so developed countries have now increasing trends of revenge porn as a problem. Right, there is definitely a struggle with non-consensual intimate image distribution, increasingly becoming a problem for developed countries. Platforms like Meta face legal challenges related to image-based abuse. We have seen a lot of legal battles between the governments and the Facebook platforms in terms of not having enough legal measures or enough privacy measures security measures to facilitate the users properly. Increased cases in the UK led to stricter cybercrime laws addressing non-consensual intimate image distribution measures. So social media harassment in developing nations, this has become increasingly problematic in developing nations. Women in developing countries experience harassment on Facebook, WhatsApp, and Twitter due to lower digital literacy and weaker enforcement of cyber laws as well. So for example, in India and Indonesia, women journalists and activists frequently face online trolling, death threats, and doxing. In a while from now, I'll discuss a case study in terms of how a women journalist has faced some traumatic experiences online. So when you focus India and Indonesia and try to compare the problem, so India has definitely increased the number of smartphone users. So there is rapid smartphone adoption, 800 million plus internet users we see in India currently. And there is a rising cases of cyber harassment and online abuse. When it comes to Indonesia, it is world's 4th largest internet market. And there is increased digital presence leading to higher risk of technology-facilitated gender-based violence in Indonesia. When you look at the cultural context between India and Indonesia, both these societies are deep-rooted in patriarchal norms, victim-blaming attitudes, and there is also low digital literacy among women, especially when you're talking about rural women. You see a very, very low digital literacy among women coming from rural areas in both the nations. Some of the factors that are enabling TFGBV would be, if you look at technological factors, there is definitely anonymity online, and there is lack of stringent content moderation. So due to both of this, because there is anonymity guaranteed, and it is very, very difficult to know who posts some text against somebody in a malicious manner. It's very, very difficult to trace. And because of non-existent stringent measures which can moderate this kind of texting, which can moderate this kind of posting, will facilitate further and contribute to technology-facilitated gender-based violence. If you look at social factors, there's definitely gender inequality. For example, female journalists are more prone to hate-based trolling than men. And victim-blaming cultures. For example, survivors of revenge porn in India and Indonesia, they definitely fear stigma more than the legal recourse. So for them, staying quiet is better than going to the police and reporting the matter. You see the secondary victimization phenomena also happening to the victims of technology-facilitated gender-based violence. Like I said, I'll discuss 2 case studies for a better understanding. The first example is cyber harassment of a female journalist in India. A renowned Indian journalist, her name is Rana Ayub. She has faced repeated online abuse, rape threats, and doxing due to her outspoken views on the online platforms. Now, cyber abuse is often politically motivated, or sometimes it is also tied to misogynistic attacks. Many journalists report mental health struggles and self-censorship due to such harassment. I have particularly taken an example of a journalist here to bring this case study. The reason is that journalists are generally considered to be very, very, very courageous, strong, and outspoken individuals with a lot of intelligence, right? And a strong woman with so many of these positive attributes, she has also become a victim of gender-based violence in the online space. And so her own strengths have been now identified as reasons for somebody to attack against them. So this is what a technology-facilitated gender-based violence could do to people. Even the strongest people could also become weak in the face of these violent measures on online platforms. Another case study would be about Bullibai and Sully Deals cases from 2021 to 22 that happened in India. It involved fake online auction of Muslim women, where their images were stolen and misused on apps. Women, especially from marginalized communities, they are targeted with deep fake pornography and revenge porn in these cases. There is definite lack of legal protection. India lacks a strong NCII specific law, though Section 67 of the IT Act and BNS provisions cover some of these cases, but they have not done adequate job in terms of catering to every kind of victim or every situation of a case. So recent actions could include some perpetrators in the Bullibai case were arrested, but many cases still remain unresolved. Advocacy groups still push for stronger data protection and anti-doxing and NCII specific laws in these cases in India. So if you look at legal framework that is in existence in India for technology facilitated gender-based violence, there are several sections that are clearly laid out within the former IPC or the now new BNS. You see a lot of sections catering to the specificities of varieties of technology facilitated gender-based violence. Like, for example, section 354C, it criminalizes the act of voyeurism, including the non-consensual capturing or sharing of intimate images. And for example, section 509, it covers the use of words, gestures, or acts intended to insult the modesty of women, which can also extend to online harassment. So a lot of these activities that are done and considered criminal offenses in the physical space are also equated to online space. And then there is a larger provision of including that as illegal activities now because of existing laws. Now, Section 66E of the Information Technology Act, it deals with the publication of transmission of images or videos of a person's private parts without consent and criminalizing activities like sextortion. These are all included in the law. A law identifies them as criminalizable activities. And the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act is also applicable to gender-based violence or domestic violent activities done on online platforms. The Criminal Law Amendment Act of 2013, which has expanded the definition of sexual offenses, including stalking and voyeurism. It also includes acts perpetrated using technology and harm done using technology in terms of in the sexual context. It also introduced provisions for cyber crimes related to sexual assault. And the Digital Personal Data Protection Bill of 2023, which is a recent one, it provides rights to control personal data and also outlines the responsibilities of entities collecting such data. So this is an important milestone in terms of recognizing the responsibility of the providers of these social media platforms. Like, for example, Facebook now has bigger obligation in terms of ensuring its users' privacy and also ensuring that there are cybersecurity measures in place so that it can ensure that there are as much minimum as possible as victims who are users of these platforms. Now, there is more accountability and more obligations on the providers of the social media platforms and to comply to the laws of the land. There is National Cyber Crime Reporting Portal, which is made available from 2019. The Indian government launched this online portal to facilitate the reporting of cyber crimes. So including the technology facilitated gender-based violence. This portal also aims to streamline the process for victims, and also it promises to ensure timely intervention by law enforcement. So now there is a portal to lodge your complaints against cyber attacks and cyber crimes, including the technology facilitated gender-based violence. The cybercrime and the police departments also have dedicated cyber cells. Now, if you look at every state in India has a cyber cell, and there could also be cyber cells at district levels as well. So the Ministry of Women and Child Development's helpline number, which is 1091, is largely used by the victims to report crimes against women committed in cyberspace. So there are some of the challenges also when it comes to legal implementation. Our justice systems, be it in India and Indonesia, there are delayed justice responses when it comes to legal measures. Definitely, in some cases, there is also no justice because the perpetrator is not identified. It's very, very challenging to trace who the perpetrator is in the virtual space. So for various reasons, there is a definite delay in the justice mechanisms, and sometimes in large number of cases, there is also no justice provided to the victims. There is limited digital knowledge among officials. Okay, digital literacy is a problematic concept, both in the general users as well as people who are in these positions of taking reports from the public and ensuring measures are taken to ensure that the victims are safeguarded. So even if there is a lack of understanding at that level, it becomes very, very challenging in terms of providing supportive measures to the people who have been identified as victims. There is also a lack of awareness among women about their legal rights and available resources, especially when it comes to use of technological space and finding legal remedies when there is a problem in the online space. That kind of knowledge is also very limited. And technological complexities will also make it difficult to track offenders, especially those using pseudonyms and VPNs. It's very, very difficult to track their identities and then launch an official investigation against them. Underreporting due to social stigma and fear of victim blaming are also pretty evident and complicated mechanisms. Some of the preventive measures that are already in place in the context of India is that there are government campaigns, for example, Cyber Surakshit Bharat, which has done extensive programs in terms of increasing cyber awareness and cybersecurity measures, understanding of cybersecurity measures and personal privacy, the importance of protecting personal privacy, and all of these have been dealt in Cyber Surakshit Bharat program. And there are several online safety campaigns which are also run by non-governmental organizations. For example, Breakthrough, Cyber Peace Foundation, Digital Empowerment Foundation, Point of View. All of these are online safety campaigns run by various NGOs in the country. There are also social media campaigns like My Choice and Delete Cyberbullying, which are aimed at raising awareness about online harassment and to promote safe online behavior. And when it comes to the role of technology in itself in terms of preventing TFGB would be, there are some women-specific apps like Be Safe, Hawkeye, and Tracks, which allow women to report emergencies, track their location, and send alerts to trusted contacts to seek help from them when it is needed. Online reporting mechanisms have also become stronger now. There is all social media platforms have to comply with the regulations of the land. And most of the giant social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram now offer reporting tools that allows user to report instances of harassment or gender-based violence directly to the platform. And some platforms have also developed AI-based tools to detect abusive content and AI moderation for abusive content. And there is also real-time reporting systems which are available in some of the platforms, and that also need to be strengthened. And there could be collaborative measures which could be taken up by government and tech companies partnership. And social media platforms also share some kind of obligations in terms of ensuring the platforms are safe, and they play a significant role. It's also important that they implement clear community guidelines that explicitly prohibit gender-based violence, harassment, and hate speech. They also must strengthen content moderation with AI-powered detection and human review teams. You cannot also simply let the AI to handle. You also need a human intervention to filter these messages, understand the intensity of a post and the intentions behind such postings. For that, there is a requirement for human intervention as well. And you also must ensure to ensure and enforce strict penalties for violators, such as account suspensions, bans, or legal action wherever it's necessary. These platforms should not hesitate in terms of taking such actions whenever they find a user is in violation of the prescribed laws. And they must also offer real-time intervention features such as pop-up warnings before users post harmful content. So this is also an important tool that could come handy for ignorant users unknowingly if they are posting some content which could violate the laws of the usage platforms. So it's important that the pop-up shows up and warns them that they're posting something which is illegal, which could be inviting a legal course of action against them. So it could serve as a reminder for them to not post that kind of message and not get into trouble, and provide privacy-enhancing tools, developing anonymous reporting systems, and offering educational resources and partnerships with NGOs to support victims of technology-facilitated gender-based violence becomes very, very important. So when you look at the existing victim support measures in India, like I said earlier, we have National Cybercrime Reporting Portal, which is already available for the victims to lodge complaints. And there are special cyber cells as well. And there is a lot of NGOs which are working in the space of counseling and legal aid to facilitate and provide support to the victims. And you also have Saki one-stop centers, which are premier victim support organizations in the country, which also looks at online technology-facilitated gender-based violence victims. So from my understanding, the way forward would be policy changes certainly are required in the space. It's important to fasten the legal processes. Delayed justice is no justice, certainly. So it's important that the legal processes are fastened, and better reporting systems must be provided on all online platforms available. Multi-stakeholder collaboration is also very much recommended, not just for prevention, but also for enforcement and also for victim support. Gender-sensitive training is also definitely required for law enforcement judiciary, especially in the context of understanding and being empathetic towards gender-based violence victims of online spaces. The outcome of this kind of trainings could be improved victim handling and case resolutions. If they know that these victims can have this kind of psychological impact, that could also further motivate them to attend to them with a lot more sensitivity and a lot more empathy, which could help in handling the cases better and which could result in victim satisfaction. There is definite rural versus urban divide there is limited access to victim support and lower awareness levels, certainly in the rural regions, not just in India, but also in Indonesia. And both the countries would also require cross-national collaborations to understand the best practices done elsewhere in the different parts of the world and see what is applicable for the respective nation scenarios, and see what could be taken up, what could be used to better suit its own individuals. And the role of educational institutions also become prominent in this context, because the education, if it is provided at a very, very early age, like in schools, and ensuring that children understand the safer ways of using online platforms right from the beginning at a very, very young age, it could also bring about a huge change in terms of being responsible users and not becoming victims in the process of using online platforms. You also must create safe spaces for women and increase female participation in the technology. You see a lot of now social media platforms have women employed as in a very, very higher positions. It's also the reason, it is also because of this increasing trends of technology facilitated gender-based violence, having a women CEO for operations of an important thing in the organization will also reflect the commitment and dedication of the organization, but also it also provide you an empathetic angle in terms of understanding these violent instances. And it's also important to expand research on TFGP and also provide funding uh, for research organizations or universities to conduct active research and understand more about the facets of gender-based violence in technological spaces. To conclude, so there is definite urgent need for a holistic approach which can combine legal reforms, awareness campaigns, victim support mechanisms, and technological interventions. So a lot of attention has to be given to various reformative measures, awareness, enhancing awareness of general users, and also ensuring that there are proper victim support mechanisms and technological interventions in place. And policymakers should implement and enforce stronger regulations. It's very, very important that you have very, very strong measures employed to ensure that there is no violation in the cyberspace. Tech companies should also enhance security measures of their own platforms, and civil society must also advocate for better protections and awareness. So in the end, I would like to say that technology should certainly empower us, but not endanger us. So it's very, very important that all users of the platform are mindful about utilizing these spaces without causing a discomfort for other users of this platform, be it in any minimal or material manner. So it's very, very important for individuals to be very, very responsible, even in the online spaces. Terima kasih. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to be able to bring out some of the issues that we in India are facing, and also to provide that context that this is a very, very important conversation to start off. Thank you so much. I
Yeah.
look forward to some questions at the end, and I look forward to listen to Dr. Nadia as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Danu. Sometimes I just amazed gitu. Amazed with the data that you give for us gitu. Because sometimes I just curious, how can people share the porn on Meta? Because Meta is a very sensitive social media, right? And it's sad, but it's still happening in our society. Okay, thank you, Dr. Danu. We move on to speaker 2, Mrs. Nadia Latifa. Oh, before that,
Okay,
I would
Miss Nadia.
just, okay, wait, Nadia. The audience's there is attendance for this event will be distributed by the co-host, so you can fill it later. Okay, Miss Nadia, are you ready?
Yep.
Okay. So the time is yours.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nurul. Well, good morning, everyone. The Excellency to Dr. Prasad Unial as the Chancellor of RV University India, the Excellency to Dr. Hemlata, and as well the respectable to Dr. Banu Prakasnona. As behalf of the Law Faculty Universitas PGRI Semarang, I say thank you so much to strengthen and continuing our collaboration, our international academic collaboration, to have a lecture series since 2024, then 2000. 2025 and again in the future. Thank you so much. And this is I will share my material for having a lecture series today. Before Dr. Banu have said and explained very well regarding the technology-facilitated gender-based violence measures in India. And again, here I will say how about the technology-facilitated gender-based violence, the preventive and victims measures in Indonesia. So we can compare regarding the system, the preventive, the mitigation, and the response as well. Well, I will share my material. This technology facilitated gender-based violence in Indonesia. We will talk about first regarding introduction, what is the FGB actually, and then what problems are, and then what the prevention and mitigation, and the gaps and recommendation that we can find regarding this issue. Okay. As we know, the audience, technology facilitated gender-based violence, or we can say GBV, is any action carried out using the internet and or mobile technology that harms others based on their sexual or gender identity or by enforcing harmful gender norms. As we know, we can see here that technology facilitated gender-based violence, the background of this issue regarding of the COVID-19 pandemic. As we know that while data is limited on the prevalence of technology-facilitated GBV in Indonesia, more research in recent years has shed additional light on the current state of the issue. Technology-facilitated GBV, or we can say online gender-based violence, as it is locally referred to Indonesia, has been steadily growing phenomena in the Southeast Asian country. So cases of such violence have continued to rise through ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. While the country lacks sufficient laws and reporting system to hold perpetrators accountable and support survivors, a network of nonprofits, civil society of groups, and government actors has been working to prevent, mitigate, and respond to forms of this violence. So that's the background of the problems. And what are the problems actually? We can find the prevalence, the perpetration, and the motivation. So here it is. The prevalence, the technology facilitated GBV. Technology facilitated GBV is prevalent in Indonesia, with the Indonesia National Commission on Violence Against Women, or we can say in Indonesia Komnas Perempuan, noting it as a rising trend in 2019 annual report. While recorded numbers continue to increase steadily, they have spiked dramatically since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. Komnas Perempuan received 1,000 more reports in 2024. So we can, we can wait again the data in 2025. It is a rise again or not, we don't know. We hope that the data is lower than the previous years, which presented 1,000 reports, which presented a nearly 400% increase from the previous years. While the Southeast Asia Freedom of Expression Network complained cases in 2019 to 2020. The rise in reporting is likely due to the proliferation of internet use during COVID-19. When people spend more time at home, we know, as well as increased global focus on technology-facilitated GBV, making reporting portals more widely known for survivors to document their cases. Perpetration of technology-facilitated GBV often threatens both the victim's safety and their reputation. So the majority of what is discussed and recognized as the technology facilitated GBV in Indonesia includes image-based abuse, especially non-consensual dissemination of intimate image. This consists of taking, releasing, or threatening to release intimate or private image of someone without their consent and includes direct image as well as editing someone's face or recognizable identity into another sexuality, implicit or intimate image. So this phenomena, this may also include impersonating the victim through creating a fake profile and posting content without the person's consent. So image-based abuse is sometimes perpetrated by a former or current partner to force the victim to continue a favors or additional intimate image. And we know in 2023, image-based abuse cases represented 95% of reports in a SafeNet. Other key forms of technology-facilitated GBV in the country include online harassment, such as written threats or bullying, and privacy violation, which may include violent act like doxing or publicly releasing private identifiable information about the victim. So current reports show that women tend to be the key demographic group experiencing technology-facilitated GBV in Indonesia. SafeNet's 2020 data showed 76% and of respondents identified as women, 5% identify as men, and again, 19% didn't specify their gender. Nearly 1/3 of these reports were from survivors in the 21 till 30 age group. The report further notes the types of individual experiencing the issue include regular citizen, 20.4%, and then journalists, 70%, and then activists, 17%. So this phenomena, we know that minority communities are also targeted due to their identities. Those belonging to the LGBT community are not legally included as a protected group against hate crimes and also discrimination due to their non-heteronormative sexuality and or a gender identity in Indonesia. So this population often turn to online spaces to find friendship, resources, and other support. Yet at the same time, they are subjected to cyber homophobia, a form of online abuse and harassment based on someone's sexual orientation. Data on technology facilitated GBV faced by the LGBT community are severely limited due to fear of discrimination of violence, dangers that further compound the risk of reporting abuse and limits their access to support services. Dear audiences, in Indonesia, there are many drivers of technology-facilitated GBV and notions of what motivates perpetrator. Conservative values and strong patriarchal norms are common within Indonesia, are used to justify the violence, especially against women, girls, and also other minority groups, community. We can see there are the data of the motivation, the perpetrators. These values are strongly ingrained in the social systems, leaving many survivors wary of reporting or sharing their abuse with their families. Police and court officials further hold victim-blaming ideologies grounded in these conservative values, leading some who report to be dismissed or shame of seeking help. These norms actually create a social atmosphere that allows perpetrators to act with impunity. Other aspects like low digital literacy exacerbated the issue because the internet use in general have limited ability to understand how their information can be manipulated or used online, or how damaging forwarding and sharing others' information can be. So that is a very harm situation and a very a very bad situation that we can say. So how is the prevention and the mitigation that we can find? As we know that there are several key organizations, dear audiences, currently working to prevent, mitigate, and provide support for survivors. Most notable, as we know, there is a SafeNet, a regional advocacy organization that operates in Indonesia. This organization provides psychological counseling, promotes general awareness and advocacy around digital rights and safety, and also being a partners with digital platform, feminist networks, civil society, and government actors to prevent technology-facilitated gender-based violence, or we can say GBV. Other non-governmental or civil society organizations dedicated to the issue include the Purple Code Collective, which provides legal, technical, social, and psychological support to girls, women, and the non-binary community in order to tackle online GBV and gender misinformation. Their main goal is to increase awareness on the importance of feminism on the internet and assist survivors of online GBV. The Institute Pelangi Perempuan, or we can say IPP, which started around 2016, has dedicated focus on digital rights for the LGBT community. Similarly, the Legal Aid Foundation of the Indonesia Women Association for Justice helps to provide legal support to women facing GBV and has included cases of technology-facilitated GBV in its focus as well. Again, several government initiatives exist to bring attention to online GBV, such as I mentioned before, Komnas Perempuan, which has been researching and reporting on technology-facilitated GBV annually since 2017. The Ministries of Women, Empowerment and Child Protection, Communication and Informatics, and also Law and Human Rights have provided logistical and financial support on this issue. Indonesia relies on the effort of international organizations such as the Association of Progressive Communication, the United Nations, and Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights to supplement civil society, government, and also grassroots efforts in the form of digital security training and direct funding. Indonesia is also an active member in several key international organizations such as ECPAT, which focuses on online sexual exploitation of children. So we can say that actually there are few laws and policies that protect victims against technology-facilitated GBV in Indonesia. In fact, legislation such as the Anti-Pornography and the Electronic Information and Transaction, or we can say in Indonesia UU ITE, have been used to prosecute victims of technology-facilitated, or we can say GBV, or to accommodate alleged offenders by giving them means to report victims of defamation. For example, the anti-pornography law doesn't value consent and therefore used by law enforcement officials to criminalize survivors as participating in pornography rather than being victims of non-consensual dissemination of intimate image. Further, the Anti-Pornography and Electronic Information and Transaction law doesn't specify additional protection to children who face technology-facilitated GBV. So this is the problem as well. And actually, it must be combined with other child protection laws to increase support for this vulnerable population. So that is the gaps actually and the recommendation within the law and what is the phenomena in the society. So here's some recommendation that we find regarding this issue. The first is we can strengthen legal protection mechanism. The lack of legal protection is a major barrier to addressing technology facilitated GBV in Indonesia. Actually, law must be reformed using a feminist and also inclusive principle to focus on consent and eliminate victim blaming policies. Some actors within the Indonesia government and members of civil society and grassroots movements are currently attempting to amend laws such as the anti-pornography and the UU ITE to be more supportive of survivors' rights. Efforts to pass the sexual violence bill, or we can say in Indonesia RUU PKS, a bill that addresses many failings of previous legislation and is a comprehensive criminal justice response, should continue despite major setbacks. And controversial views such as conservative parties concern related to legalizing LGBT and greater support by international actors to local grassroots movement attempting to address these laws can further facilitate change. Besides that, the second recommendation, we can enhance efforts to address inequitable gender and social norms. Conservative values and a dominant patriarchy perspective within society challenge effort to address technology facilitated GBV and foster a culture of victim blaming by family, friends, and others who interact with victims such as law enforcement officials. Violence remains highly stigmatized, resulting in a lack of prioritize of this issue within the government and society, rendering many efforts within and outside government relatively efforts that address underlying gender norms can help to disrupt harmful perception of women, girls, and other community. This effort should include society at large, as well targeted programming for police and court official handling cases of technology, facilitated GBV, and interacting directly with the survivor. And then we can improve digital literacy and safety. Low literacy, including digital literacy, is a concerning issue in this country, especially in Indonesia. For example, internet users tend to rapidly distribute non-consensual intimate image without understanding the implication, further stigmatizing and causing harm to victims. Although some efforts already exist, such as SafeNet's Guidebook on non-consensual distribution, and also that program that use a right-based perspective need to be expanded to develop and deploy better guidelines for engaging safely on the internet. Digital literacy training should also include basic safety and also awareness for all internet users on how their information may be used and where they can go to report the offense. And then we can increase survivor-centric resources and support. As we know, the comprehensive and sufficient effort. The rise in case reported during COVID-19 overwhelmed the already limited and saturated resource available in Indonesia. Funding for these resources is seen as a formidable challenges, with some organization relying only on grants coming from the international community rather than the government. So additional funding from the national government and also international government can enhance survivor-centric resources and also efforts. So again, we can invest in accessible user experience model to ensure better privacy and reporting. As we know that technology facilitated GBV is increasing yet. Reporting remains difficult for survivors and under prioritized by digital platforms, which have largely shifted their attention and resources to addressing COVID-19 related the misinformation. The user experience of privacy setting and reporting mechanism can be challenging to navigate, especially when someone has low digital literacy. Tech companies further struggle to incorporate the issue of consent when developing a privacy and reporting mechanism. So region and country specific research on survivor centric experiences of reporting could encourage companies to recognize these needs and invest in a programming that is responsive to survivors. International actors and local government actually can work in collaboration with tech companies to facilitate this challenge. So actually, that's all about my presentation. As we know, the technology is actually useful, but if it not using with the literacy, it will be harmful. So I open the participant for we have a very fruitful discussion with Dr. Banu as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Nadia, for your presentation. After each speaker presentation, we will have a question and answer session. Please feel free to raise your hand to ask a question. Okay? If you have a question, please open your camera, state your name and affiliation before asking your question. Please keep your question concise and relevant to the topic. So, who want to ask? Anybody?
Thank you for the given. I, Sylvia Dewi Agustin from PGRI University Semarang. Permission ask question to Dr. Banu. In 2019, 32,033 rape cases. This figure shows the every 16 minutes there is one case of rape in India. In this case, how is the effectiveness of the legal framework in India in dealing with cases of gender-based violence facilitated by technology or directly? Thank you.
Okay, do I answer?
Yes, you can.
Yeah. Thank you for the question, and I'm sure your statistics are correct. So there is definitely a report which was published in 2020 or 2021, which has indicated that every 16 minutes there is a rape committed against a woman or a girl child in India, which created so much of disturbance in the legal fraternity or in the government to be able to comprehend this kind of statistics. It also signifies the seriousness and the intensity at which these kind of instances happen in a civil society. So it's very alarming, the numbers. So it is after that and following an infamous case, a gang rape of Nirbhaya, which has happened in 2007, 2012, which has then formulated several legal changes, legal framework changes, and also it has also brought about victim support measures like Sakhi one-stop centers. So now the program of Sakhi one-stop center is because of such kind of efforts, such kind of research-driven efforts, as well as the legal fraternity has worked together in terms of bringing about amendment to the existing law policies, and the Amendment Act of 2017, which has also indicated that there are some lacunas in terms of how do you define rape, what is included as a rape. Now there is a lot of elaboration in terms of the definition of the rape, and so there are also a lot of government measures in terms. Like, for example, there are stricter regulations comparatively nowadays in terms of using social media platforms. Now the Facebook or the Twitter or Instagram must follow the local rules that are set, and they have to adhere to the local requirements in terms of legalities to ensure the safety and privileges of people who are using these platforms. So you cannot allow that space where there are lacunae in terms of and not have an accountability from service providers, right? So I say that on ground, there are a lot of changes that have happened following that statistics of following Nirbhaya gang rape. There is a lot of awareness in terms of these kind of practices. And there are also a lot of government initiatives, be it in public sector or in the private sector. There is a lot of push given already to be able to promote, to bring a lot of awareness in terms of these problems. And there are also corrective measures in terms of setting up of one-stop centers or victim support organizations to be able to available the real help that is required for the victims. So as much as there is a problem, and this is definitely a serious concern, I would also say that the country has made efforts in terms of ensuring that there are proper legal frameworks available for victims to access support, and there are places that the victims can go to get the support. The problem in most of the cases in several nations is not about the existing legal framework or the mechanisms to address these kind of requirements. The problem is about the enforcement of existing legal frameworks or enforcement of or implementation of these kind of victim support programs that people have. So it becomes a problem about enforceability rather than existence of laws or existing support mechanisms. So I think where both India and Indonesia have to focus is about how do you make an existing law more enforceable? What happens if something is not complied? What happens when somebody violates an existing law? Are there any legal recourses in terms of, like, for example, can you sue Facebook for not having a stricter policy measure to ensure privacy of its users? Can you do that? I don't see one single complaint lodged in an Indian context to sue a Facebook or a Twitter or an Instagram CEOs demanding them. You see that in US and UK happening. But I don't see that in India or Indonesia, where they are made responsible, made them feel accountable, and brought them to legal courts and have to defend their position why they did not supply adequate measures of security on their platforms. So there is a lot to do with enforceability of the existing legal frameworks and then making people accountable in the systems to work. Like, for example, what happens if a police officer refuses to file a complaint given by a victim who faced online abuse? Now, if a police officer undermines the significance, undermines the impact of such kind of activity, right? And if they refuse to file an FIR based on that, what is the legal course of action that the victim can take? Do we have an enforceability, accountable measures in place to make people accountable to do what is their job? So that is where we lack in terms of ensuring justice to victims, be it in online or offline spaces. Enforceability becomes a challenging factor. Both India and Indonesia are mindful of these problems. They also have adequate measures. Of course, there is a lot of improvement in terms of ensuring they are stronger and stronger. There is no doubt about that. But when it comes to enforceability, it does also need to go hand in hand, and there has to be accountability of non-compliance for these existing laws. So I think that is one area where I think there is a lot of work to do. So thank you for bringing up that question and the statistics. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for the beautiful answer, Dr. Beno. I think our moderator has the bad signal, so we can continue the question from the participants, okay?
Sure.
Okay, we can see, yeah. Mm. Who raise your hands? I will call your name. wanna ask? Okay,
Sorry
Raffi,
for interruption.
please.
It's rainy days in Indonesia, so my signal is a little bit mess. I'm sorry. For the next question. Who want to ask? Yes, Raffi Azhar Isudin. The time is yours.
Excuse me, my name is Ravi. I want to ask about gender-based violence in Indonesia and India. How is the victim assistance program? Is that enough or not? If it's not, what aspects need to be improved? Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Banu, you can answer the questions.
Sure. Thank you, Rafi. So, like I said, so there are several government initiatives in terms of victim support, not just for technology facilitated, in generally for any other forms of violence against women and children. We do have victim support measures in place. One of the important government initiative is Saki One Stop Center program, where women and girl children who are victims of any kind of violence, be in private, public, and online spaces, can go to these centers and get victim support. It's possible. And there are also a lot of non-governmental organizations who are working in this field. Like, for example, Breakthrough is a non-governmental organization, and they have done a tremendous work in terms of creating awareness about cyber-related issues and providing peer support programs, and also liaising with tech companies to ensure that the platforms are safer, right? So there is a lot of governmental and non-governmental organizations which are working in terms of providing victim support for victims of technology facilitated gender-based violence. Like I said, your question is more so about whether this is enough or not. I would say that it will never be enough, right? Looking at the number of cases or the increasing trends of victimization that we are going to see in the future, right? The mechanisms that we currently have will not be adequately enough in terms of handling the amount of cases that we are going to see in the future. So it's important for the governments to work in a multi-stakeholder, multiple perspective mechanisms to see that what is an area of legal framework that we need to strengthen? What is the public sector area that we need to strengthen? What is a policy level area that we'll have to strengthen, right? How can you enable and build your capacity and resources to be able to deliver direct victim support to individuals who are in need of help? There are several areas which needs a lot of work. As we speak, there is a lot of work that is required to be able to sustain and deliver to the raising demand and the raising victimizing trends that we are going to see in the future. So it is going to be an extremely challenging times that we are going to get into if you're not prepared for that. And it is estimated, even just in India, we have like 1.3 billion instances of online victimization happen in the last 5 years. So these are rampant figures, but you also have problems with underreporting. Half of them would not even tell that they've been victimized. Now, how are you going to handle this kind of phenomena where people are not even speaking up? Does that mean that there is no victimization? No, these are all silent sufferers. Now, what is the government's accountability in terms of even talking to the people who are not talking about their victimization? How can you support them, right? So there are several challenges in this process of aiding victims. It has to take a very, very holistic understanding. It's not just one department that you focus on. You have to integrate several departments and ensure that a lot of work is done in several areas to be able to support the demand that we are going to have currently and in the future. Otherwise, we are going to have a crippling effect in terms of not serving justice to a large number of people, which is going to be a very, very challenging scenario. Unlike the physical space, the cyberspace is completely different. And the amount of victims that it's going to produce is multifold. So you have large number of your people who are dissatisfied for not getting justice, which is not a very, very good thing for any civil society.
Okay, thank you for your answer, Dr. Danu. I agree that we have to always aware for ourselves and our family, our society, and extra, because the new technology is, which means like a new crime, isn't it?
Sure.
Okay. Any another question for Mrs. Nadia, maybe?
Another answer. I do agree with Dr. Banu. If Rafi asks to us, is it enough? It will never be enough again. As we know that the number of cases arises every year, that we have to strengthen legal protection mechanism. And I mentioned before, we have to enhance efforts to address inequitable gender and social norms, and also improve digital literacy to everyone and its safety, and also increase survivor-centric resources and support, and invest in accessible user experience model to ensure better privacy and reporting. So if the I mentioned before we can do, I think again it will never be enough. So a lack of the legal what is it, enforcement and the implementation is it still being a problem, I think, in Asia, especially in Indonesia.
Yes. We have Naila Putri Nuraini. Naila?
Yeah, Bu.
Okay.
My question for Mr. Banu is, how far can India's digital literacy program reach rural women who are disproportionately affected by technology-facilitated violence? Thank you.
Yeah, India has successfully taken smartphones to rural places. So we have a lot of rural residents using smartphones these days, which means it is a problematic trend. You have people who are not mindful of what all can happen in the online space. They're not aware. They're not aware. And you have large number of people who are not aware of these cyber crimes who are using digital platforms. But because of the recent advances in technology and the penetration of smartphones even to the rural areas, so that is the biggest challenge that we have right now, right? How do you educate women who are already using smartphones in the rural areas, right? How can you start? They don't even have a normal literacy of reading and writing, right? And how do you now impart digital literacy? How can you make them become aware of what is the privacy concept? What are the things that they'll have to enable and disable to make sure that they're safe in the online space? There is a lot of work that is required in the area of digital literacy, especially contextualizing it to the rural users, be it men or women in the rural areas. So there is a lot of work that needs to be done because we already have 80% of our Indian population have smartphones now. Look at the numbers. It's about 1 billion people, more than 1 billion people who are using smartphones in the country. That is not an easy thing. They have digital devices. They're using it every day. And then look at the amount of cybercrime potential that we have in this country, right? And lack of literacy in using digital spaces can become a huge problematic uphill that we are going to take in very near future. We have already started using this, and there is a lot of things that these individuals do not know about how to be safe in the online platforms. And we already see an increasing trends and victimizations because of lack of digital literacy. I say that there is a lot of work bringing about awareness. So a lot of funds and efforts need to go into awareness programs. Now, for example, my caller tune on the phone. So if I dial my contact, if I call somebody using my phone, before that person answers, I get a message recorded on the phone telling me about how to become aware of cybercrimes. Right. So this is an awareness method that we have. So every call that I'm making, I get to hear this information first. Right? That there is pre-recorded voice which tells me about various methods in which I should be able to feel safe. Or there will be several banks which will call me to tell how safe they can be in terms of using their platforms, right? In their banking platforms, how safe you can be, how should be aware of what is allowed and what is not allowed. How should you figure out which one of this is a fraud email, which one of this is a real email, right? There are several awareness initiatives which is already taken, but because the country is huge and there are so many users, right? Any effort will fall short. It's very important to maximize your efforts every time and again and ensure that you cover wider sections of audience and ensure that they understand what you're trying to give this message, right? So I see that awareness is certainly a very, very important area that we have to divert our attentions and efforts, funding and everything into that because we are dealing with mass millions and millions of individuals who could become potential victims, which is not an easy understanding.
It's very good answer, Dr. Banu.
Thank you.
So we move to the last session, the closing statement. To wrap up this session, I would like to ask each of our panelists to provide a brief closing statement summarizing their key points. Dr. Banu first, followed by Mrs. Nadia. The time is yours.
Yeah. So like I said, so I think it is a time for call for action, because both India and Indonesia certainly have a huge magnitude of users potential. For me, when I say that there are a large number of users of technology, it also reminds me of the potential for a large number of victims being generated in the near future. So there is definitely a call for action and a lot of determination that individuals need to commit and the governments need to commit in terms of ensuring that their individuals are safe, both physically and on virtual spaces, especially because people have large vulnerabilities in terms of becoming victims on online platforms due to lack of literacy, because there are several new technologies and it is humanly impossible to understand how to use it, right? Because it is attractive, because it is effective, because it is friendly, the platform is friendly, because it is user-friendly, it has a lot of advantages, people subscribe to that. People subscribe to that and they become victims in that using platform, right? Like, for example, I never try to comprehend why is it that a food delivery app would require access to my contact details? Why is it that they need permission to my camera? Why is it that they require permission to use my microphone, right? If I do not give them consent, they will not let me use the app. I still fail to understand what is the logical reason behind these companies asking me to provide access to my phone. I do not understand this, right? Now, somebody, I have a PhD degree, I have a doctorate degree. I'm sitting here lecturing on technology facilitated gender-based violence. I myself do not know why should I give consent to these food delivery apps to let them access my phone, use my camera, use my microphone. How do I trust them? What happens to if they breach? Is it easy in the ways of raising the legal course? If, for example, a Swiggy a food delivery app violates my privacy or uses my contact list to breach, right? Or allows somebody to use their platforms to hack my account. Now, how do I make this accountable for them to ensure that I'm served justice? Now, what kind of knowledge do I have? Do we have mechanisms to ensure that can happen? Right? Are governments too committed to ensure that my case is taken up and I'm given justice? Right? So there is a lot that we still need to do. I'm not undermining the efforts that have been put in place already. So it's very difficult to pace up with the inventions these perpetrators can have in terms of using digital spaces and finding loopholes and lacunae to target victims. They are more creative, they are more intelligent than your government measures, right? So they devise newer ways to crack into your systems and then breach your firewalls to do whatever they can, right? So governments also collectively must think beyond the perpetrators to be able to prevent certain activities. So we cannot always act in a first aid mechanism. You have a damage and then you try to solve that. You have to think in terms of preventative mechanism. How can you act beforehand and ensure that that person will not think this way? So we have a duty to, governments especially have a duty to look far beyond in terms of time ahead. They have to think beyond in terms of time ahead and see that what could be potential problems in future and have solutions ready for that. We are still struggling to figure out a problem and a solution at this point. We're not thinking about the future prospective problems at this point, right? So there is definite gap in terms of the way a perpetrator thinks and the way the government responds, right? By the time you have a solution for an existing problem, your perpetrator must have thought about creating 10 new problems for you, right? That is the pace at which the cyberspace is being utilized. So it is a big challenge, and there is a lot of efforts that need to be diverted into this space to ensure that individuals are safer using online platforms, because we cannot not use online platforms. That has been the reality of our lives. We must use these platforms. There is no other way of existence, but we all need to put efforts in terms of strengthening these mechanisms and make these places more and more safer for us to use. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Banu. Next, Mrs. Nadia.
Okay, thank you so much. For the conclusion, as we know, again, as Mr. Banu said, that the perpetrators are more creative, are more initiative than us. as we know that there are few laws and policies that protect victims against technology-facilitated GBV in Indonesia. In fact, the legislation such as the Anti-Pornography and Electronic Information and the Transaction or UITE law have been used to prosecute victims of technology-facilitated GBV or to accommodate alleged offenders by giving the means to report victims for defamation. For the gaps and recommendation, I should say that we have to strengthen our legal protection mechanism in Indonesia, and also again giving enhanced efforts to address equitable gender and social norms and improve our digital literacy and safety, because I do agree with Mr. Banu that technology is actually very useful, but without literacy is a very harmful. So I don't have any much giving a conclusion, because it's a very perfect from Dr. Banu. There has been explanation. He is the expert of the victimological research, and also he is the director of the Center for Victimological Research and Victim Assistance of the RV University India. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to thank our esteemed panelists for their insightful presentation, information, data, and etc. I was amazed. Okay, and I would also to thanks all of you for your active participation in this discussion. So I hope this event has provided us with a better understanding of challenges posed by technology, facilitate gender-based violence, and the steps we can take to address them. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Have a good day to you too as well. Thank you, Inda. Thank you, Dr. Nadia. Thank you,
Okay.
Ibu Duro. Thank you so much for your moderation. Thanks a lot. Okay, you take care. All the best. I hope to see
Yeah.
you sometime soon,
Mhm.
offline or
Thank you,
online.
Doctor. Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you,
you.
Dr. Nadia. Thank you, Professor
Is
Bhanu.
Thank
it
you,
time
everybody.
for our
We
MC? We'll
then
take a photo session first. Yeah, please, Indah.
Okay, before we end the first lecture series in 2025, we will first take a photo together. Please turn on the camera. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, all the guests and audiences, we are going to the last agenda that is closing. Our agenda is running well. Thanks 1,000 times for the narrator, moderator, and our participant who have been a good participant in this event. May we all got much sense and useful in our life. As human being, I realize it, I cannot avoid the mistake. I represent all committee, would like to say sorry if next attention the last I say. Thank you for your next attention the last I say. Good morning.
Dr. Banu, Dr. Hemlata, thank you so much.
Thank you so
See you
much.
for another lecture series again with RV University India.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Hemlata
thank
ma'am.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Bhanu.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye. Take care.
Take care.
Mm.